UFC 306 is going down on Saturday night, and it's one of the most anticipated events in combat sports history ever. It's the first sporting event to be held at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and there are some very tantalizing matchups on the main card. So let's break down UFC 306. We're going to do it with a sports writer and combat sports expert for the Daily Mail, my guy, Leocciano Callao. Leo, what's good, man?
Not much, Dexter. How are you? Thank you again for having me here.
I'm doing great. I know you're doing great because you are a combat sports guru. You are very excited for UFC 306.
Absolutely.
And just to let the people know, earlier this week, we had the opportunity to interview UFC President and CEO Dana White. He sat right here where you're sitting, Leo, and he told me he believes UFC 306 is going to be unbelievable. And he said that based on the matchups, what's at stake for this event. So do you believe that this event, which has had a lot of hype, is going to live up to the immense hype that it's had?
Dexter, I think it absolutely will. Now, the UFC is no stranger to delivering big cards, but the difference between past events and tonight is that they're trying to sell an experience with putting it in the Sphere. So as much as there is a lot of pressure on the fighters to put on a show, when you put them in a massive stage, in a one-and-done event, as White calls it, on Mexican Independence Day, you could bet the house that these fighters will perform. So now it is up to UFC, Dana White, the people behind the scenes, to deliver on their promise. And so with that being said, you know, the biggest threat to this card would have been if somebody missed weight or had to pull out last minute, and they weighed in yesterday, and all the fights are official. Knock on wood, nothing happens within the next couple of hours. And once that's done, they will step into the octagon, they will do their jobs, and now it is up to the UFC to deliver on their promise, which I think they will.
So let me ask you this, because when I talked to Dana White here, and he talked about, I don't want to call it this per se a spectacle, right? But just how it's going to look, the visual aspect of all of it. You know, I even said this to him, it seems like there's a lot going on with it, but that it could look really dope. Are you excited to just see this from a visual perspective? I know you're excited about the card, and we'll get to that, but just from a visual perspective, are you really excited to see this?
Absolutely. It's a different type of sporting event, you know, and when you think of all the sporting leagues across the globe, not just in the United States, there's not a bigger fit to do something like this than combat sports. You know, you could do it with the NBA. They tried it with the All-Star weekend and even with the in-season tournament. And you're not going to do it with an outdoor sport like American football. So the fights are perfect for this type of environment, and it's just up to the UFC to deliver to the cinematic experience that they've been trying to advertise.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Look, everything that we've seen this far looks really good, but can't wait to look at it. But the reason we have Leo here is we want to get into these big matchups because we have a co-main event. First, let's talk Sean O'Malley versus Morbid Vales. O'Malley, when you look at him, he's been on a rapid ascent through the UFC. He's been moving up. How do you think his fighting style is going to match up against Vales? Because he's got more of a relentless grappling style and he's got a different pace. Right. How do you think that works for this main event?
Absolutely, Dexter. So I'm one of the many people who believe the Valashvili is the worst stylistic matchup for O'Malley in this division. And like you pointed out, you got the Valashvili's pace versus O'Malley's speed. You got the Valashvili's persistence versus O'Malley's power and precision. You know, so when you look at their last fights, Dvalishvili was able to impose his wrestling against a gold medalist and UFC legend in Henry Cejudo. On the other hand, Sean O'Malley put on a stand-up showcase against Marlon Chito Vera for 5 rounds despite not being able to finish him. Now, that doesn't change the fact that O'Malley has that knockout power that can take your lights out at any given second. And though Dvalishvili has shown that he could take a punch, he has not faced someone with O'Malley's power. And in the same breath, you can say that O'Malley has had success against wrestlers, but they don't impose the same threat that Dvalishvili has. So key for O'Malley is if he could defend the takedowns, which is the biggest thing, and if he could use his length to control the distance, picks his shots right, then I think he could snipe from the distance and potentially get another highlight knockout finish over Dvalishvili tonight.
All right, so you think there's knockout potential here for O'Malley, which is what he does. That is in his bag for sure. What do you think when you look at this fight, a win for O'Malley or Dvalishvili could mean for the Bantamweight division, and how might it influence matchups that we see going forward here?
See, Dexter, the Bantamweight division in the UFC right now is very intriguing, and you're entering shark-infested territory in the top 5, you know? So a win for O'Malley would mean that the right thing to do would be to fight Umar Nurmagomedov, who is 18-0 and number 2 in the division. But O'Malley has talked about wanting to move up a weight class, fighting Ilia Topuria at 145 and going for double champ status. But for that to happen, he has to come out of this fight tonight, and Topuria has to beat Max Holloway next month. Now, that does not change the intrigue in the division, and if Dvalishvili wins, on the other hand, you're going to warrant the champ a rematch, right? But if he moves past that, or if O'Malley decides to wave him off, you still got Nurmagomedov waiting on the wings. He is on deck. And beyond him, you got Corey Sandhagen, who just lost to Nurmagomedov, but is still a very big threat in this division. You still got Peter Yan waiting in the wings. You got Marlon Chito Vera on that division still. And the biggest key to this as well is that former flyweight champion Davison Figueiredo just moved divisions and has been successful at 135 so far, so he's in the mix as well.
So there's a lot of possibilities and a lot riding. This is why we're talking about the stakes being so high for some of these fights here at UFC 306. And obviously, this is not the only fight. We have a co-main event. We've got a trilogy fight, folks, at UFC 306. Valentina Shevchenko, who's been dominant, as you know, Leo, in the flyweight division. She was shocked last year when she lost to Alexa Grasso. Big upset, big shock there. 6 months later, we saw a rematch. That one ended in a controversial draw, right? Now, a year later, we get the conclusion to this trilogy, which fighting combat combat sports, folks love, right? Love getting a trilogy, love getting this conclusion. How critical is this fight against Alexa Grasso for Shevchenko's legacy here? And what does Grasso bring to the table that could potentially disrupt Shevchenko once again?
Yes, so as the saying goes, even the best fall down sometimes, and we've seen that in the UFC recently with once dominant champs going on skids after losing their titles. We've seen it with Israel Adesanya losing to Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. We've also seen it with Kamaru Usman, who hasn't bounced back yet ever since he got knocked out by Leon Edwards and lost his title. Now, would being a two-time UFC champ be big for Valentina? Yes, but she's already established herself as one of the greats with that dominant run that she had. And when you look at her career in the UFC, before losing to Grasso, she only lost to one of the greats in Amanda Nunes, both by decision. So would getting a second title at the age of 36 be great? Yes, it would do her wonders, but that doesn't change the fact that if she lost to a younger champion and a top-tier fighter in Alexa Grasso, would not make her any less great or dent her legacy.
Yeah, she still would be looked at as one of the greats of all time. Do you feel like Valentina still has the hunger here to want to get that second title, right? Second-time champion. Do you think she still has the hunger here for that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the hunger is always going to be there, but as we've seen with the likes of Alexander Volkanovski, sometimes father time just does this to you, and when a younger up-and-coming fighter at their peak, and Grasso is 31, is almost impossible to beat, and sometimes you just got to face that. But like I said, doesn't change that Valentina Shevchenko is already one of the legends of the division and of the sport.
Yeah, no doubt about that. One of the legends of the sport for sure. Okay, Leo, here's what we got to do. You understand, you know what time it is. I see you took your breath, you're at the center yourself. We got to do predictions. All right, who wins O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, and who comes out on top in Grasso versus Shevchenko? Who do you have winning both of these fights? The people want to know. Let's hear it.
Yes, sir. I'm going to get a lot of heat for this. But I think Dvalishvili is going to overwhelm O'Malley for 5 rounds. He's going to put on that pace. He's going to control his shots. He's going to make smart exchanges. I think he keeps O'Malley anxious for 25 minutes and comes out the new champion. Now, for the co-main event, I'm leaning towards the side of youth here. I'm leaning towards the side of fighting for your people on Mexican Independence Day, and I'm leaning towards getting your hand raised for the past 2 contests, and I'm going Grasso and still.
All right, going with Grasso and going with Merab Dvalishvili to come out. You said 5 rounds for Dvalishvili, taking it to distance and coming out on top. We will see what happens and how it goes down in UFC 306. That is my good friend, Leocciano Callao. Does a great job covering combat sports for the Daily Mail. Check him out. Leo, appreciate the time. I know you're excited to watch this event tonight. Please enjoy the event. We'll do this again soon.
You as well, Dexter. Pleasure coming here as always.
Always. Thank you.